The floorboard gave a soft sigh as I stepped into the dark hallway, the night lamp spilling amber onto the worn carpet. I heard my uncle's breathing, even, steady, as if the house itself were holding its breath. A sudden thud echoed from the bedroom door, and my heart slammed against my ribs. I froze, wondering if the sound was a warning or a promise. The cold air brushed my cheeks as I slipped the door open, the faint scent of his aftershave mingling with the night's musk. I saw his silhouette, half lit, and felt a strange pull I couldn't name. I had always known my uncle as the steady anchor in our family, the man who never raised his voice. He ran the small hardware store on Main, greeted every neighbor with a firm handshake, and paid his taxes on time. My mother called him the Rock when we talked about finances, and my dad trusted him with the garage's old pickup. I spent my childhood watching them work side by side, the rhythm of their lives syncing like gears in a clock. When I turned 17, I moved back to the house after college, hoping to finish my senior project in the quiet of my old bedroom. The neighborhood felt smaller now, the streets humming with the same old cicadas. I still ate dinner with them every night, the table a stage for polite jokes and shared stories. The kitchen light flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to dance around the empty chair where my aunt used to sit. That night, the air was thicker than usual, the scent of rain drifting through the cracked window. I heard a muffled laugh from the upstairs hallway and felt my curiosity tighten like a knot. I slipped a shoe off and padded silently toward the sound, the wooden stairs creaking under each careful step. The hallway was dim, the door at the end ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the darkness. A whisper floated out. "You shouldn't be here." And it was my uncle's voice, low and urgent. My breath caught, and I pressed my back against the cool wall, trying to decide whether to turn back. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself I was just being nosy, that I needed to know what was happening. My mind raced, the image of his closed door turning into a question I couldn't ignore. The next day, I found a folded note tucked inside a cookbook, the ink smudged as if written in haste. It read, "Meet me at the dock after dark. I can't keep this secret anymore." My hands trembled as I unfolded it. I stared at the words, feeling the weight of the secret settle like a stone in my stomach. The dock was a place I'd never been with him, a place where the river whispered under the moon. I walked past the living room, hearing the soft clink of glasses as my uncle poured himself a drink. He glanced at me, his eyes flickering with something I couldn't read, and said, "You look tired, kid." I left the house that afternoon, the setting sun painting the sky in bruised purples. My mind replayed the note, each line a drumbeat that grew louder with every step. When night fell, I stood at the edge of the dock, the water lapping gently against the wooden pilings. The moon reflected off the surface, turning the river into a sheet of silver glass. He emerged from the shadows, his coat collar turned up against the chill. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he whispered, his voice cracking like a thin twig. I felt a surge of anger and relief, a tangled knot that tightened my throat. "What are you hiding?" I asked, my voice barely louder than the wind. His eyes darted to the water, then back to me, as if searching for the right words. "It's not what you think," he said, "but it's something I can't keep to myself any longer." He pulled a small, crumpled photograph from his pocket, the image blurred but recognizable. It was a younger version of him, arm in arm with a woman I never knew, smiling under a summer sun. I stared at the picture, the realization dawning that my uncle's life had a chapter I'd never been told about. The silence stretched, heavy and unforgiving. He tried to explain, his words stumbling over each other. "She's my sister. We thought she was dead." My mind raced, the puzzle pieces shifting in ways I couldn't yet see. I felt the cold seep into my bones, the night's darkness pressing against my skin. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I whispered, the question hanging like a fragile thread. He looked away, his shoulders slumping under the weight of his confession. "I was scared," he admitted, "and afraid of losing everything." My heart thudded, the rhythm echoing the panic in my chest. The dock creaked under my feet, the water's sigh a reminder that secrets could drown. I turned away, the sound of my uncle's breath following me, a ghostly echo in the night. The path back to the house felt longer, each step a question I couldn't answer. The next morning, I found my mother in the kitchen, her eyes red from a night of we. She told me, "Your uncle has been acting strange lately. I'm worried." I stared at her, the photograph hidden in my pocket, the weight of the secret pressing down. "What kind of strange?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She glanced at the window, the light catching the dust motes dancing in the air. "He's been coming home late, and he's always on his phone, muttering something I can't hear." I swallowed, the taste of fear bitter on my tongue. "Do you think he's doing something?" She sighed, the sound heavy with years of unspoken worries. "I don't know, but I can feel something off." The days that followed were a blur of half-heard conversations and lingering glances. My uncle would slip a warning in the hallway, his eyes flickering with a secret he couldn't name. One evening, I caught him on the phone, his voice low. "We have to meet tonight. It's the only way." My heart raced as I listened, the words like a needle in my skin. I tried to ignore it, to convince myself that I was reading too much into a simple phone call, but the knot in my stomach tightened, each day feeding the dread. I found another note, this one hidden inside the back of a drawer, the paper crinkled and stained with ink. "Don't tell anyone. He'll kill us both if you do." The handwriting was shaky, the message a threat that chilled me. I felt a surge of panic, my mind flashing to the dock, the photograph, the night's whispers. I knew I was standing at a crossroads, each path leading to a darker place. I confronted my uncle that night, the house quiet, the hallway lights dim. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He stared at the floor, his hands trembling. "You shouldn't have read that," he said, the words a low growl. I felt my anger rise, a hot flame against the cold night. "I'm scared," I whispered, "but I can't pretend this isn't happening." He looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and guilt. "I'm sorry," he breathed. "I never wanted this to affect you." I realized then that the secret was not just his, but a thread that tied us all together in a web of lies. The house seemed to close in, the walls whispering with past sins. I went to my mother's room, her eyes widening as she saw the photograph in my hand. "Who is she?" she asked, her voice trembling. I showed her the picture, the young faces staring back with a quiet sadness. "She's my uncle's sister," I said, the words feeling heavy as stone. My mother's face crumpled, tears spilling onto the pillow. "Why would he hide that?" she whispered, the question a scream in the silence. My uncle entered the room, his shoulders slumped, his eyes red. "I thought I could protect you," he said, "but I was wrong." The confession hung in the air like a dark cloud, the weight of years of deception pressing down. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, the salt a reminder of the pain. The next morning, the police cars arrived, their lights flashing like a warning. My uncle was taken away, his hands cuffed, his eyes never meeting mine. I sat on the porch, the wind tugging at my hair, the hum of the street below a distant murmur. The house felt empty, the silence louder than any argument. My mother hugged me, her arms shaking. "We'll get through this," she whispered, the words a fragile promise. I clung to her, the fear of the unknown gnawing at my heart. I wondered how many more secrets lay hidden in the walls of my family, the unspoken words that shaped our lives. The thought was a knot I couldn't untie, a darkness that lingered. In the weeks that followed, I tried to rebuild, to find a new rhythm in a life that felt cracked. The kitchen still smelled of coffee, the hallway still echoed with footsteps, but the air was different. I kept the photograph in a drawer, a reminder of the night the truth shattered my world. It was a scar I could never erase, a lesson I would carry forever. I learned that silence can be a weapon, that the truth can cut deeper than any blade. Yet I also learned that even in the darkest moments, a single breath can be the start of a new path. Now, when I walk past the dock at night, the river's surface is calm, reflecting the moon's gentle glow. I hear the water's soft sigh and remember how easily we can drown in secrets. I still hear his voice in the wind, a faint echo that reminds me of the night I crossed a line I never meant to cross. The memory is a ghost that walks beside me, unseen but always present. And I know that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The lesson lingers, a quiet warning that lingers long after the night ends. The night was still, the house finally quiet, and I whispered to the empty hallway, "I'm sorry." The words hung, a final confession that dissolved into the darkness.